Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Deep Six Podcast, coming to you from somewhere just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Matt's just air jamming.
Steve, can you do me a favor? Can you just go back to the beginning and re-loop this song?
No, I
Because
can't.
It's just,
I'm sorry.
Fuck, like I wait like every 2 weeks for this song, and just, it's like never lasts long enough. Like your sex life. Like, it's just like it's just too short.
Wow.
I'm on fire today, and it's like.
Anyway.
I'm hooked on a feeling.
Anyway, I'm your host, Steven Spivak, joined in person today by Mr. Matthew Barnes.
I'm the comedic relief.
Anyway, let's get on to what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
But first, actually, let's introduce our guest.
Yes.
I'll let you introduce him since he's your friend.
Yes. So we have with us today my friend, my colleague, former writing partner of mine, former work associate with mine, going way back in the day when I worked peddling hats for the man at Lids, Hat World, my friend Marcus. Marcus, how are you?
Hello. I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Awesome.
Doing pretty well.
Yeah, going back to the lid days. Wow, that's throwing it back.
Yeah, working for the corporate hat man. It was
Yeah. And little known fact, Matt is the reason I ended up going from Lids to GameStop, because he knew the manager at GameStop at the time.
I did. And it wasn't too embarrassing for me since, the manager there knew why I got fired for GameStop. And this isn't too much of a sidetrack, but I got fired from GameStop. And during my firing from GameStop, one of the questions literally asked of me during my firing was, "We have footage of you with your pants off in the store. What's going on?" And I had to say, "Man, I don't know what happened. I don't think you really have that." And they to show me footage of me with my pants off in the store. So that really happened.
Why would you have the pants off in the store?
I used to just do my morning stuff with my pants off in the store. I don't know. I would, go there and change and not put my pants right back on right away.
As frequent as they would have employees work at GameStop for hours, I could see where it would be like a second home and you felt like you could take your pants off.
I used to come in at like 8 a.m. and sometimes I was really hungover. And I would come in wearing like shorts instead of like khakis. And I would come in, I would like take my shorts off and like just go about my business. And, pants wouldn't go back on until like 5 minutes before, store would open. Kind of like if you watch like the Goldbergs, like how like Murray Goldberg will like come in and take his pants off like right when he comes in the door and then get in his easy chair. Like that would be me when I would go to GameStop. Like I come in, I'm just taking my shorts off and I'm just walking around the store, and then pants go back on when the store opens.
I'm sorry I gave anyone that visual.
I'm just at a loss for words right now.
Steve looks flummoxed. That's okay. We'll get back on track.
So today's show is how do we want to put this? You were calling it, Matt, a Marvel Cinematic Universe.
The grand scheme, like what comes next for the MCU, because we've been waiting 12 years to see, what this is all building towards. We started with Iron Man way back, in 2007, 2005, I forget what year it was. We started with Iron Man, and we thought, okay, maybe we'll get one or two movies out of this, and I don't know, we'll see where it goes from there. And now we're building towards Infinity War, and it's been this big grand storyline. But now we're kind of, this is the climax. So what's the next grand storyline for the MCU?
That's a good question. Why don't we start off by going through some of the major comic book story arcs, some of the more events, if you will, and we'll see where we can go from with that. Do you wanna read these off, or do you wanna?
Steve, why don't you start?
All right, so the first one you've got listed here is Secret Wars, which, of course, a cosmic entity called the Beyonder observes the mainstream Marvel Universe, fascinated by the presence of superheroes on Earth and their potential. This entity chooses a group of both heroes and supervillains and teleports characters against their will to Battle World, a planet created by the Beyonder in a distant galaxy. This world has also been stocked with alien weapons and technology. The Beyonder then declares, "I am from beyond." Wow, that's original. "Slay your enemies, and all that you desire shall be yours. Nothing you dream of is impossible for me to accomplish." Straight from Wikipedia.
So this is obviously it's the original Secret Wars, not the new one, because there was a Secret Wars reboot. I think that was what 2006.
Well, wait. We could talk about Secret Wars 2, which is
this
the
isn't
event
even
we
Secret
do not
Wars
speak of.
2. This is Secret Wars reboot, like
yeah.
the new Secret Wars.
But,
the new Secret Wars reset all the canon for the current Marvel series. So I would throw that one out, like, because they haven't gone far enough to say, okay, we need to set everything back. I think when we get to it, Infinity War may be that to do that. But I would say the original Secret Wars, which you're referencing and which you just read, I think, if anything, that would probably be the next best story after they finish the Infinity Wars. If they go part 1, part 2, or if it goes Infinity Wars, reset, and then go to Secret Wars somewhere within the next 5 years or so.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with you to say that if they do a Secret Wars in a movie, it would kind of have to be a reset, but they might even be doing that with Infinity War. I mean, we have very little knowledge of what's truly coming with Infinity War just yet. We just know that everybody is slated to be in it at this point.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with what Marcus said either, that we can throw out the new Secret Wars. Just because, that was the melding
we don't have,
of the...
we don't have 5 Spider-Mans and 3 Iron Mans. We don't have that right now. We have technically we do have 3 Spider-Man, but we have one that Marvel's sticking with in their MCU. And we're not going, unless, for whatever reason, Robert Downey Jr. decides he doesn't want to do it, I don't see them wanting to reset that necessarily just yet. That would probably happen in the next 3 or 4 years, that they decide that to no longer use that version of Tony Stark.
Yeah, and we don't have the Ultimates universe that really needs to be melded in yet. I mean, and that's an interesting side topic we could maybe touch on, that, Sony did announce that the animated movie is going to have Miles Morales as the star, and that launched a whole side topic of, oh, why do we have to touch Spider-Man? Why do we got to change Spider-Man and make him black?
Yeah, we did see some
Black
backlash.
and Hispanic. Black and Hispanic.
Yes.
They didn't change the character.
Nope.
This is a different character.
No.
Yep.
You fucking hick.
But yeah, Secret Wars, I think you could even go and say, was the original Marvel Comics event. So I think in the MCU, it's really only a matter of time before we see some incarnation of it.
Secret Wars probably makes the most logical sense based on where they're going with things. To be maybe the next storyline.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next event you've got here, Matt. Why don't you read this one?
Infinity Wars proper, not Infinity Wars, which we're about to get the movie. And this is a topic we'll touch on. But if you look at Infinity Wars, which they're making, it's not technically like Infinity Wars, the comic series, but Infinity Wars, the comic series. When hero Adam Warlock takes possession of the artifact known as the Infinity Gauntlet, he expels the good and evil aspects of his being to become a totally logical being who can therefore use the gauntlet wisely. This act recreates his evil persona and old foe, the Magus, who desires universal conquest and revenge against Warlock and the Titan Thanos. Meanwhile, the effectively emotionless Adam is brought before a jury of the cosmic powers and voluntarily surrenders his godhood once he is found to be guilty of being unworthy. The Magus collects 5 cosmic containment units, another name for the cosmic cubes, and with power gained, incapacitates the cosmic entity Eternity, creates an interdimensional realm and an array of doppelgangers, evil mirror images of Earth's superheroes. So, as you can see, Infinity War the movie literally has nothing to do with Infinity Wars, the comic series. It's just sort of using the title and adapting it to what they need it to be.
Not to say that at some point they couldn't borrow that, because we don't know, one, what the full plot of the new Infinity Wars is going to be, and what was supposed to be and may still be Infinity Wars Part 2, because I don't rule out the idea that Adam Warlock would at some point do something to disrupt the cosmos, as if it were, and then him pay a price, or have the Avengers pay a price to get to the next stage. And then from that, we could have our own kind of Secret Wars that develops somewhere down the path. I wouldn't rule that out.
Real quick, I do want to say Infinity Wars has been confirmed that it's not going to be split between 2 films. They've decided that they're going to keep it all in one film.
And that's what I was saying. We don't know, like, what was supposed to be part 2. We don't know what that's going to be.
Yeah,
but
that could be a different concept.
We can still assume that it still may be a bigger plot point, and it could be something that, like, fallout from Infinity Wars Part 1, because in between Part 1 and Part 2, there's Ant-Man and Wasp and Captain Marvel, and Captain Marvel probably wouldn't be introduced until the later half of Infinity War Part 1.
I think in a recent
what would happen.
In a recent interview, I think Evangeline Lilly said that they were saving the Wasp reveal for Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then she would be the Wasp in the second part of whatever that series is going to be, because they didn't in the first part because they felt like that should be part of their own movie series. So that should tell you a little bit more that there's going to be some continuation, but it's not Infinity War. It's going to be some sort of different concept, but it's going to be along the same lines. But I think the most obvious missing element there is that we have no actual proof of concept of Adam Warlock existing beyond the egg in Guardians of the Galaxy that was there 1 second, then missing in the bonus footage.
And we, like you have both said, we are getting Captain Marvel between the two films, which could very much set up Adam Warlock in some aspect. We are also getting a Guardians film here in the next couple months from the time we are sitting here and recording this. So we could very well see Adam Warlock show up right under our own noses and could possibly have some effect
I think a lot of people's aspiration was that Adam Warlock would end up being Star-Lord's father, and that didn't quite happen.
Yeah, there was a lot of people hoping that would happen. I like the point that you made, Marcus, that we could very much see what could be some sort of a Secret Wars fallout of possibly seeing Adam Warlock show up somewhere in Infinity Wars. Which
I do like that idea quite a bit myself.
Be very interesting, especially because the Beyonder isn't necessarily someone that you want to, I guess, put on film and put in a landmark role.
He is from Beyond.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would be a very interesting thing to see.
I mean, if I'm seeing it the way that Marvel Studios has done it recently, they've kind of replaced key characters and made them someone else. Well, I couldn't see them swapping out the Beyonder and it being Adam Warlock. And just because it's more of a pivotal role, because Adam Warlock could very easily tie into Captain Marvel. So I can see them doing that, whereas the Beyonder wouldn't be much of anything until after again, we don't know what the second movie after Captain Marvel will be, but, I can see an Adam Warlock playing between Avengers and the Infinity Wars and Captain Marvel. I can see Adam Warlock popping up in there somewhere.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it really does. Let's move on to what we got down here for the next event, which, of course, is Civil War. But for those of you that don't know, the Civil War movie and the Civil War comic story are somewhat vastly different things.
Yeah, and to a point, I think that the way the Marvel Universe set up, they kind of had to be a little bit different.
Yeah, and I don't think the movie did a disservice to the title of Civil War because...
I mean, we've talked about this before on the show.
Yeah, we have. But the comic event, we have the lovely description of the event based upon Wikipedia here. So I'll read that off. The U.S. government passes a Superhero Registration Act. What the hell does that say?
Ostensibly, Steve.
Ostensibly. Jeez, I'm sorry.
Wow.
Ostensibly,
right there.
Yeah, right. Ostensibly designed to have superpowered individuals act under official regulation, somewhat akin to law enforcement. However, superheroes opposed to the act, led by Captain America, find themselves in conflict with those supporting the act, led by Iron Man, with Spider-Man caught in the middle. The X-Men take a neutral stance, and the superheroes in support of the law, such as Iron Man, Dr. Reed Richards, and Miss Marvel, become increasingly authoritarian. Jeez, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I have a very
word.
peanut-sized mind. In the aftermath of the war, Captain America surrenders and is imprisoned. The conflict between freedom and security is an underlying theme in the storyline, with real-life events and discussions such as the U.S. government's increased surveillance of its citizens serving as a backdrop for the events in Civil War.
Well done, Steve. And poignant social commentary.
I can breathe now. I wish they wouldn't have put the Sokovia Accords in the Civil War film, just so they could play a more Registration Act storyline to a broader scale.
To a certain extent, I think they had to cover for the mess that was Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like that was sort of like glanced over for the fact that Tony and Steve were bickering over some bullshit.
Well, and then they never really set up like the way that Civil War sets up with, the whole Stanford incident where, Speedball blows himself up and becomes Penance and all this other bullshit that happens.
Kills a bunch of kids.
Yeah. So that never really happens where like something feels like important enough to really set up that.
I mean, aside from dropping a whole fucking city from the sky, but
like 5 people died.
This is very true.
It's like when they talk about like on Seinfeld the Andrea Doria, and George is like, oh well, all the shit that happened to me is like far worse than what happened to you.
Yeah.
The Andrea Doria, like everybody survived.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's why I said I don't feel like the Sokovia Accords, which is basically the Registration Act of the MCU, really.
The only people that's died in the Sokovia thing were Zemo's family.
Zemo's family and what's her name's kids were like the only ones that died. So
That's
it's like
it.
Total five people died total. And again, I think the Registration Act probably would have fit better is when help me here.
Thunderbolt Ross.
He says, do you know where Hulk and Thor are? And if you have nuclear weapons, you would damn sure know where they're located. So the Registration Act would help with that. Like, you can say, okay, I know Thor is here, Hulk's here. We can use Thor or request Thor or Hulk.
That's a much more logical reason to use it. Like now we can track people where they are.
And that's why Registration Act would work. And that's why I agree that when they go with the Sokovia Papers, I'm just like, that doesn't. I agree that it kind of makes it seem as though it's for one reason and not another. Because again, only 5 people died, and it was just like heck. You saw the land before Ultron and the Avengers took to it. It was a piece of shit. So it's like it's not like they make more points when they show New York City and DC and stuff like that. But like when it's like a barren wasteland where only 5 people die, I think there's more to kind of say like we need it for more domestic reasons than we do international.
Yeah. I think another interesting thing to note about the Civil War comic book story compared to the movie was that clearly Spider-Man was already a very recognized character, and a major plot of the comic story is that he reveals his identity, which is major because if you know anything about Spider-Man, you know that him keeping his identity secret is a major part of that character to save his loved ones from any possible danger. Another thing is that I think we're going to see remnants of this Civil War story play through this new Spider-Man film that's coming.
Somewhat, yeah.
Because...
Well, I would say that's going to go from Spider-Man to Black Panther because if anyone hasn't seen Civil War yet, Black Panther does play probably the most significant role in there towards the end because he has Bucky being held. So
right, and he lets Zemo live, and he saves Bucky and harbors him.
And plus, we've got Captain America, who has been revealed to no longer technically be bearing the name Captain America, so Steve Rogers is holding up in Wakanda as well.
He's Captain Hydra now.
But back to Spider-Man for a second. Tony winds up giving him the Iron Spider suit in the comic, which reveals to be tracking Spider-Man's locations.
Which I'm pretty sure we can draw conclusions that that's actually happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, which is why I say I think we're going to see remnants of that Civil War story kind of playing through other films.
And we've talked about this too, that if you really pick apart the Spider-Man Homecoming trailers, that at certain points in the trailer, it looks like things are happening much later in the movie, and he doesn't have the uniform on anymore. So it looks like he's taken it off and thrown away the Stark outfit for Spider-Man. And they're like, okay, I'll just wear the hoodie again because you're like fucking tracking me.
Yeah.
So there's Civil War. Why don't we move on to the next one you got here, Matt?
Not reading all this, Steve.
The Infinity Gauntlet.
So I added Infinity Gauntlet because I very much think that Infinity War, the movie, is much more based on Infinity Gauntlet, the comic storyline. But as the gist, Thanos mounts the 6 Infinity Gems collected in Thanos Quest Limited series, the comic event, on his left glove to form the titular Infinity Gauntlet. Each gem grants its bearer complete mastery over one aspect of the multiverse: time, space, mind, soul, reality, and power. Combined on the Infinity Gauntlet, it provides omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence. Now all-powerful and desperate to win the affections of Death, Lady Death, Thanos decides to offer the entity of a gift of love by completing a task she had given him, erasing half the sentient life in the universe, including most of the X-Men, Daredevil, and the Fantastic Four, quite literally with the snap of his fingers. The surviving heroes on Earth band together, guided by the newly resurrected Adam Warlock, there's the name again, to battle Thanos. In a bid to impress Death, Thanos allows the heroes a slight chance of winning, but easily defeats and kills almost all of them. Thanos then goes on to defeat and imprison many of the universe's cosmic entities, including Galactus, the Stranger, the Titan Kronos, Epoch, the entities Love and Hate, two Celestials, Master Order, and Lord Chaos, and Eternity. After defeating Eternity, Thanos leaves his body and becomes the living embodiment of the universe. This leaves his abandoned body vulnerable to Nebula, his alleged granddaughter. Nebula takes the gauntlet off Thanos' hand and dons it herself. She then undoes all of Thanos' actions, restoring her from disfigurement, bringing the dead back to life, and reversing damage done to the cosmos. Another battle with the heroes and cosmic deities ends with Adam Warlock taking possession of the gauntlet, after which Thanos appears to commit suicide. Warlock's allies object when he plans to keep the gauntlet intact for himself, but he ignores them. Later, Warlock and his companions discover Thanos working at a farm while contemplating his loss, and satisfied that he is no longer a threat, decide to leave him be.
Interesting thing to think about real quick is that a big part of the MCU, I guess you can consider the Thanos quest.
Yes, which has been running in the background of all the MCU movies.
Yeah,
we haven't seen it, but it's been happening.
Yes, because you got the stones that pop up pretty much in
every movie.
Just about every movie, at least the first of every set of movies that comes out, of course.
Well, I mean, most recently we saw Doctor Strange.
Yeah, and we did see... Did we see Thanos with a gauntlet in some footage that they showed at Comic-Con?
They've released pictures of him with the gauntlet.
Yeah, there's something.
Yeah.
Well, he said it. What movie was that?
And he put on the gauntlet at the end of the footage without the stones in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that was at the end of a movie.
Which one was it? I can't remember. Was it at the end of Civil War?
No, it was before that. I want to say the first Guardians or
maybe
something else.
Maybe it was the first Guardians where he says, "I'll do it myself." Then.
Yeah, and he puts it on.
No, it was
grabs
Avengers.
it and then shuts whatever safe it was.
Age of Ultron?
No, it was the original Avengers.
No, it wasn't that. No.
No, at the end of original Avengers was when they showed the twins, wasn't it?
No.
The end of Avengers was when he turns to the camera and smiles. And they didn't have Josh Brolin.
There was no voice.
Either.
There was no voice then. You're right. I'm pretty sure it was at the end. No, I'm pretty sure it was the end of Ultron then, because they've been alluding to him being...
End of Ultron.
Yeah, they've been alluding to him being the major baddie of the MCU, so they've been putting him at the end of the Avengers films, and they put him, obviously, in Guardians because they need to
instead of being
set up the
instead
character.
of Nebula being his granddaughter, like in the comics, she is his adopted daughter in the MCU.
And so, yeah, I think we've been seeing the Thanos quest clearly
play out in the background.
Yeah. When you mention how, Matt, you think that this upcoming Infinity War film is going to be more Infinity Gauntlet story-wise.
I agree. I think you just pretty much read the entire spoiler alert for the audience out there.
Well, that makes
I can see all of this playing out. Like, when I was going through and preparing for the show, I wrote, like, half the things, not really realizing that's what Matt was writing. Like, I have the Celestials, I have Death written down, I have Thanos' quest for the Gauntlet, and I have Nebula written down. So I have all these things kind of, like, playing in. And just sitting there thinking logically, like, this could very well be what we see with one of the two. Again, we still don't know the name of the second one. The Infinity Wars.
I think this is mostly the first movie. And I think, if not to get too spoilery, but James Gunn has said that Nebula is going to play a much larger role from here on out.
Yeah, and I think...
And the not to be too spoilery for Thor, but they've said that Hela isn't so much the keeper of hell like she is in the comics, but she's supposed to be the embodiment of death. So there's the rumor that she's supposed to be Lady Death, not so much Hela.
I could see that. I think it's also interesting to note Adam Warlock's role in Infinity Gauntlet.
In both stories that we mentioned.
Yeah. And I know that I believe James Gunn has said that at the time that they did Guardians, There were no plans for Warlock. It was kind of just a nod.
But now nobody's talking about him.
But that doesn't necessarily mean anything. That could be...
That more suggests to me that there is something going on because now nobody wants to talk about it.
Exactly. So, since we pretty much decided that could very much be the story for this upcoming film, do we have any other events that we care to talk about to possibly be adapted to film?
I really do think that Infinity War probably goes along with Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah.
And I think the second movie probably is more Secret Wars.
Probably. I could see that
where
being
they're
done.
kind of left fragmented.
Yeah, I could see it kind of being done in the vein of doing a mix between the true Infinity War and Secret Wars, but giving it that Secret Wars name just because you've already got a film titled Infinity War.
Right.
One of my... Sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack.
No, go ahead.
One of the things I actually have wished, and I know it's not going to happen anytime soon, is that we actually do get to explore more of the other Marvel universes, like the alternate versions of different characters. Like, granted, that would have to happen through Secret Wars, but that's kind of been a thing I've kind of hoped for once we started realizing that the Marvel Cinematic Universe was going towards the Infinity Stones. I was kind of like, oh wow, now we can actually look at whether it be alternate realities for some of the characters or all these other things. That kind of for me was like, oh, that's like a fanboy thing you would kind of want to see.
I think we've already started into that. I think
somewhat, yeah.
I think when Ant-Man got to the point where he just kept shrinking was part of it. I think Doctor Strange traveling through dimensions is part of it.
Those are the two when I saw, I thought like, yeah, that's how we're going to get it. But then in Ant-Man, they just only showed it very briefly.
Yeah.
And then Doctor Strange gave more of a nod to it than Ant-Man did, obviously.
I think Ant-Man and the Wasp will touch on it more because now that Hope will have a suit, the natural progression will be, well, I want to go try to find my mother.
Yeah, I think also it's part of the reason that Doctor Strange is going to be in this next Thor film is because they're trying to tie together dimensions and show that there's a lot more out there than anybody has been led to believe. And I think that's going to be a big part of getting Thanos and the Guardians to Earth.
Well, let's not forget, too, that, like, Hulk is one of those few beings that Thanos is quoted in the comics as saying that he doesn't want to tangle with. He's afraid of the Hulk. So I think that Thor Ragnarok is kind of a setup to say that, like, Thanos is moving pieces to say, I don't want to tangle with the Hulk, so I'm going to remove him from Earth before I get there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to place him in, like, this combatorial situation, like, way away from Earth before I even get there, because I don't want to tangle with the Hulk at all. I've been watching for forever.
Yeah.
I don't want to mess with him, and I'm going to place Thor in this situation far away from this, too, because I don't want to mess with him either. And now I'm going to go pick off the scraps when I get there.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how it finally all comes to a head.
And Doctor Strange has perspective to know all this ahead of time.
Yeah.
And I think he gets involved knowing that he can bring them back.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Thor. And I'm not afraid to say that this is the first time that I'm actually looking forward to a Thor film.
I've liked both films. I'm not afraid to say that the second one was bad, but I've liked them both.
I don't hate them, but I think that
but I am very excited for this one.
Yeah, I don't hate the films. Like I said, I think they just sit lower on the tier of everything else that Marvel has done. But I'm very excited for this upcoming film, and I'm be very excited to see how it all winds up tying together. I want to talk real quick about another event that I would like to see put into a film.
Of course, Steven.
Even though it's very unlikely, the Spider-Verse storyline.
Get the hell out of here.
Didn't Sony say a while back that they wanted to do that? Like, they wanted to have not only the Sinister Six, they wanted to have all the different types of Spider-Verses at some point kind of convened before they went and made the deal with Marvel.
I think Sony was just trying to put out anything that would stick with fans.
I think Sony's running on the same philosophy that Fox is, much like I think Steven was going down that aisle too, that they're just like, okay, let's just do something that'll get people to go see our movies.
Yeah.
But then I think Sony was wiser than Fox has been, and they're like, let's just give them Peter Parker to Marvel and make a deal, and then we'll just go play with Miles Morales in our own little thing, and we'll just fuck it up however we want, and people will see it anyway. But then we've bought enough good credit with the Peter Parker thing with Marvel that people will still forgive us whenever we fuck up with the Ultimate thing over here.
But I would really like to see a live-action Miles Morales. I would really like to see a Spider-Gwen, and I don't really
think that's
like
out of the realm of possibilities.
No, I don't think it is at all. But I would really like to see some of those interesting Spider-Man characters that wouldn't be seen otherwise. But I don't think you can touch on that until you can touch on interdimensional travel and things of those natures. Because
I mean, we have Doctor Strange now.
Yeah,
so.
well, but I mean, obviously, it goes back to the different dimensions because that's basically how it works.
And I think once they get Fantastic Four back, you'll see some more of that stuff too, which will happen. Fox is not going to make another Fantastic Four movie. So
see, I don't throw that out. I think that when it comes to Fantastic Four, I really think Fox is like, we've got to do anything to make money, even if it means we're going to spend, $30 million to lose $20 million. We got to hold on to this until it comes back and people are interested in.
That's the major problem, though, that they haven't made any money on Fantastic Four ever. I mean, they made money on the first movie, but they haven't made any money since then. So it's kind of just a declining commodity at this point.
That's why you're seeing so much being done with the X-Men.
And Marvel cut the comics altogether, so they're not even making anything that'll base it off of anymore.
And they even cut the X-Men, and now it's all Inhumans, which is a property
X-Men,
Marvel itself.
X-Men, they're still
X-Men
producing.
is getting its resurgence. Which is why
Marvel's very hesitant about creating any new characters in the X-Men universe because then Fox automatically owns them.
Well, if you look at the comics, they have everything's like gone Inhumans. Like they've split everything now for everyone's in different kind of like X-Men obviously still exists, but now everyone's kind of like Inhumans is the label.
X-Men's still one of their highest selling properties, though.
Inhumans versus X-Men is the major story that's happening right now.
Yeah, that's their major arc right now.
And they're planning to release about 6 to 7 brand new X-Men related books.
They're splitting it. I think Iceman's getting a solo title.
They're putting out like 3 separate team books.
X-23 is getting a solo, I think. I forget the other ones.
They're doing
like 4
there's
solo
X-Men
books.
Gold and X-Men Blue. And I want to say there's a Phoenix book coming.
I think so. I know Iceman was one of them.
About that.
So I mean, they're definitely looking to bring the X-Men back into the comic book
But they are very
wheelhouse.
big about Inhumans. I'm not going to say you're wrong about that because they're trying to pitch the property to get the TV show launched.
Exactly. They're pitching that out there, especially because that was supposed to be a film. For that to be a TV series now is a big deal.
Right.
Because you've got to pitch a lot more than just one movie. You've got to pitch months and months of worth of television shows.
Yeah.
So,
and the other question about that is it being on ABC. I don't see it's succeeding on ABC.
Well, ABC's gotten much better with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to the point where I think that they've made that a viable property. So I don't necessarily distrust them within.
I can't buy into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm sorry.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has gotten much better since they pushed the time slot back. Like,
let me ask you this real
better.
quick. Let me ask you this real quick. How much Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. have you watched?
First season.
That's why.
It's gotten much better since they pushed the time slot back, and they got much darker with the storylines.
They've also wound up putting a lot more production value into it.
That's good, but, Matt knows this from conversations with me. I don't give shows much hope after they've turned me off. Like, Walking Dead turned me off after season 2, so...
Me and you were on the same page with that, and I gave up on it too, and then I started watching it again randomly, and then I would say from like the end of season 2 on, it started getting much better. But then the beginning of season 3, they pushed the time slot back on ABC, and the storylines got much darker, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. got much better.
I mean, not to bring this up as well, not to talk too much of what we've already talked about.
And the Ghost Rider
before,
stuff this season was excellent.
But there's also been talks of tying the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. property to the Netflix properties.
They've been teasing Luke Cage stuff this season.
They've been also the whole meeting that they had with the creator of The Punisher and getting his series out there and the possibilities of those being tied together. Plus, we just saw Ghost Rider. His arc is over with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I don't think it's over.
No,
I just think it's over for now.
I think it's over for now, but he's been shot off into another dimension.
Well, spoiler alerts. Jeez, now I can't watch it.
Hey, you said you had no desire to watch it, but
you're telling me to watch it. Now you just ruined it.
I didn't ruin it.
You have to. It's all about the journey. Don't worry about the ending.
Yeah, but it could mean that he could show up in a movie, which is not out of the realm of possibility for that, because all their contracts are cross with.
You're still
with
missing the point that
films and stuff.
We're talking about the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider and the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider. We know exists because he was on the show too.
That's true.
So there's two different Ghost Riders.
And I hope it's Nick Cage. No, I'm just saying. But let's move on.
So do any of us think that there's anything that we didn't touch that we think specifically will happen in Infinity War?
One thing that I want to mention real quick is that because Infinity War comes before Captain Marvel, I'm pretty sure that's going to be the end credits.
Well, they've already said that Captain Marvel's in the movie.
Have they?
Yeah.
Oh, she's like in there?
Yeah.
In there?
Yeah, they've said that already.
Fuck them.
That was at the at Comic-Con they said that she was in the movie.
I somehow must have missed that.
Yeah, but I view her as an Act 3 property, not having any major.
Yeah, I don't think she's in the movie, like the whole movie. Like I would say she shows up towards the end, and I would say it's more Carol Danvers than Captain Marvel. Like she shows up as a soldier.
Well, see, that's something else I think is going to be pretty interesting to see, is how they skip that whole Miss Marvel thing.
I don't know. Maybe
if they don't even skip it,
there's probably going to be some Kree nonsense in the movie because Thanos needs soldiers, and they haven't introduced the Black Order into the Marvel universe at all. Unless they're planning to do it in Guardians. I don't think they're planning on doing that, so...
Well, keep in mind, like Feige himself said that he doesn't want to do origin stories, so I can very well see Captain Marvel being thrown into the Avengers as...
like a backdoor origin story.
Yeah. It's just like, they show her as, like you said, a soldier, and then something happens later in the story, like sidetrack story or whatever, or she just may have already existed, but is shown as a civilian, and then we find out whatever later.
She reveals herself during the course of Infinity War.
I think the
whole...
potential. Yeah.
The whole transition from Miss Marvel to Captain Marvel, though, is kind of, I think, a big deal. At least, and I trust Marvel to do it, properly and do something that makes sense. But
I think either it happens in Infinity War or we don't see it at all, and it over the course of the movie, she just appears.
I have a feeling they're going to have a lot of creative liberties with her origin.
Probably. I mean, given the way that she gets her origin, and it's so Green Lantern-y,
yeah,
I don't know that they're going to want to go down that road. But
yeah, I don't know. Other than that, I think we've kind of hit everything.
I don't
with what's going to come from that film. What happens next? What comes after Infinity War? I think we've kind of already touched on the possibility of a Secret Wars-esque thing, but what do we get outside of that?
I'm hoping that in between now and then we get the Fantastic Four property back and they start on to like Doctor Doom and Galactus as like the next big arc. That would be my hope.
That would be very interesting.
I did have that, but the question right back to Infinity War real quick.
Okay.
Did anyone else notice that Peter Dinklage was signed on?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Infinity Wars?
Me and Steve talked about this separately. Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you think that he would play?
I said MODOK.
And then when you said it, I automatically...
The moment I read it, that's the first name that popped in.
Pip the Troll. No.
Yeah, somebody else told me Pip the Troll, and that makes sense if they're going to bring in Adam Warlock, but I'm still not sold that they're bringing Adam Warlock in.
I think that might have been part of their plan with separating the two films and then deciding that the one film was going to be something completely different. Was kind of
I also suggested if they're going to do the Black Order, he could be a voice, and they would just use him as a voice actor.
Yeah,
I think you would be... I don't know, discrediting him if you just put him as a voice actor.
They're using Josh Brolin as a voice actor.
That's very true, though. But he is mocapping, if I remember
they could
correctly.
Use Peter Dinklage as a mocap.
So, I mean...
So...
Yeah. I mean,
that's why I'm suggesting MODOK.
Yeah, I think MODOK would be a great fit for him, too.
And they've introduced AIM as a property in the universe already in Iron Man 3, so we know that it exists somewhere in the universe. They've never touched on it again, but we know that it exists somewhere. So I wouldn't be shocked if that's who he was, but Pip the Troll makes a lot of sense, and I wouldn't necessarily... I don't know if he wants to just be, stereotypical, like, short guy in a movie. Like, MODOK's a more interesting character, like, he gets to be, like... kind of like a killer for once instead of just being like underestimated guy.
Question for you guys: for Infinity Wars or any Marvel property moving forward, what are the villains you'd want to see?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to see Doctor Doom and Galactus. That's my number one want to see thing. But individually, I mean, there's a ton of different stuff I want to see.
I want to see Venom.
Yeah, I want to see Venom, too.
I want to see Carnage.
You want to see Venom and Carnage done right. You don't just want to see them. You want them to be done right.
Yeah, exactly. And I
sadly, because of where they're starting with Peter Parker in this universe, I don't foresee Venom and Carnage being things we're going to see.
It depends. I know Sony, like we touched on earlier, was really into villains and Spider-Man villains, and I think if there's anything that makes Peter Parker Spider-Man, it's his villains.
Well, sure, because Spider-Man is kind of the Marvel... It's kind of the Marvel equivalent of like what Batman is in terms of he's defined by his villains.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if we wind up getting a whole plethora of Spider-Man films and not just, Homecoming did so well, we're taking the property back, I think we could very much wind up seeing a Venom, if not in the next film, somewhere down the line.
Just think that'd be hot-shotting it too much to do them in
might
like the
be.
second movie, especially when Peter's still in high school.
Yeah, I think they have long-term plans with this, though, with casting such a young actor, with starting it at such
I would think so.
early time in Peter's life. I really think there's major long-term plans.
Using
to not
the Vulture as your first villain to start the universe suggests to me more of a long-term plan.
Yeah. But yeah, I would also like to see the Sinister Six. Pretty much anybody associated with Spider-Man, I want to see it.
You fucking mark.
Outside of that, I would really love to see a lot of the X-Men villains.
Right
like the X-Men villains, there's so many of them to not want any
when you
of
think
them.
of your Marvel Universe scale villains, I mean, there's not many that they own right now.
Yeah, I was kind of going through a list, and they kind of owned by Fox, like Super Skrull. I mean, the one I was happy to see was Dormammu, and I want to see more of them, but that'll be determined. I was hoping that he would be a tie-in to Thanos.
I really think Dormammu could be a major player in this upcoming.
I think that's
Infinity
likely
War.
the direction they're going if they can't get Fantastic Four back. I think if they get Fantastic Four back, they're probably going to go the Doctor Doom route, more likely. But if they can't, I think they're going to go with Dormammu.
Well, you've got to basically look at it right now as they don't have that property, so they've got a story written.
I think that's been somewhat unresolved, whether they have that property or not, because nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah, nobody's really talking about
on
it.
either
Which means,
side.
Yeah,
because Fox won't outright deny it, and Marvel won't outright say we don't have it.
They could very much be doing it right under our noses.
Right, and Marvel still has properties on the calendar that they won't say what they actually are on the calendar.
Again, we don't know what Infinity War 2 is, and whatever the placeholder Inhumans was supposed to be hasn't been announced.
Right, they won't say what some of these things are.
Talking to the Fantastic Four, if we're talking villains, I'd really like to see Galactus done by Marvel.
So would I.
I mean,
like an actual proper representation of what Galactus is. But to that end, too, I really do want to see Lady Death. I'm hoping that that's what Gila is supposed to be. It's kind of a bastardization of what Gila actually is. And in terms of Thor villains, too, I'm not quite sure why they didn't use the Enchantress. Probably because DC did Enchantress, too. So there's a name issue there.
Yeah.
But it's a completely different character. But yeah, those are villains I'd like to see. Taskmaster, too. I'm surprised.
Taskmaster would be fantastic.
Surprised they didn't use that yet either.
See, I kind of think Taskmaster would fit more to the while he kind of needs superheroes around him, just the character would probably fit better in like, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. side of stuff.
I thought that was gonna be the Defenders villain myself. I was kind of surprised that it wasn't, and obviously I want to see Bullseye on the TV side.
Yeah,
but anyway,
like you guys said, there's a lot of villains that are just really up in the air because it's in those murky waters of who actually owns the rights to these characters.
Right, so, and who would have ever thought that Fox owned Ego? Like James Gunn said, they had to make that trade so they could get Ego to use for Guardians 2.
And I don't even know where that makes sense unless he was originally a Fantastic Four character.
He was introduced in Fantastic Four.
So, I mean, it looks like Fox is playing hardball with characters in that respect then.
Fox wanted to use Negasonic Teenage Warhead, which Marvel still had.
The whole who owns this character and who owns that character.
It's silly. They should all just be playing
boggles my
ball.
mind.
Yeah, and Fox doesn't want to let go of any of them.
No, because
they're terrible movies to make money.
You're not wrong, but you can definitely see the trend of movies the money the movies are making going down, and I would expect that trend to even hurt the next X-Men that they're doing, because I think everyone has slowly come to the realization there is a difference. Before, people didn't know the difference. Now people are realizing there is a difference between Marvel studio franchises and what Fox is doing.
It's 100% a difference. And people can say that there's no difference. It's all just a Marvel movie to me. It's a Marvel character. You sound stupid when you say that.
Yeah, especially because when this kind of is going to segue into our next topic here, but there's so many stories and, like we said, characters that kind of get put in abeyance because you've got Marvel who owns certain characters and then Fox who owns certain characters, and you can't do these stories where these characters cross over. That's why Logan, while Matt and I may disagree on how these trailers are coming across, it could be really good, could be really bad, depending on how much they tie it to the Old Man Logan storyline. Because for those of you that don't know, S.H.I.E.L.D. is a big part of that storyline. Hawkeye is a big part of that storyline.
Red Skull.
Exactly. So it's going to be exactly. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. But it also is to say that you can do the MCU without something to replace the X-Men, which they look like they want to do with the Inhumans.
Yeah.
Is silly to say that they can be two separate things, because there's always been a weird dynamic of having people who are kind of made into superheroes or have unfortunate circumstances that happen, and people that are born into it.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be those two that are butting heads, which I see on the notes here, X-Men versus Avengers being suggested as something they could do if they had the rights back to the X-Men. And I would love to see that.
Sure, of course.
I mean, the ideas of I would love to see what Marvel could do with Cyclops, because Cyclops has always been treated horribly by Fox.
Undervalued character by them. Because he doesn't look cool on screen. Not like Wolverine. Like, he looks fucking cool. Wolverine's got claws, man. But see this son of a bitch walking away from an explosion with those claws.
I've always seen Cyclops as this real fucking dick-faced motherfucker. Like, he's a leader. Of shit, but he's a piece of shit too. I hate Cyclops. He's a fucking dick. But I would really like to see him in more of a Cyclops role that is more akin to that. I don't think he's been enough of a dick in.
That's why in
Fox.
Secret Wars, like, Cyclops kind of becomes a villain in Secret Wars.
Cyclops is technically a villain right now since the whole the last Phoenix storyline they did with the Avengers versus the X-Men.
Because he's kind of a dick.
Yeah, but he feels like he's kind of right, and he might be.
Well, that's the whole mutant thing in general.
Yeah. But I mean,
like, the only thing that Fox has gotten right with the X-Men movies is the portrayal of Magneto to me. Like, I think Michael Fassbender's been fucking great.
I mean,
I think Ian McKellen was great.
I would agree. That's probably that and the casting of Hugh Jackman are the only two things they've gotten right.
Well, I think Charles Xavier is portrayed pretty well as well as he can be for an actor of
Patrick Stewart?
Patrick Stewart's age.
Is it as much that you think that he's been portrayed great, or is it that you can't picture anybody else playing the part but him?
If I can't picture anybody else playing that part, that he's playing the character well.
I don't know that that's necessarily true. He just looks like the role.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I think if you go through, like, the vast majority of actors who could probably look like the comic book character that we're all used to seeing prior to the live action versions, whether it be the comic book or the cartoon that was in the 90s, that's like the person you'd probably think. That's like the first name that would come to mind.
Well, sure, of course. And I don't specifically have anything against the way you played the part either.
No, I don't either. But I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I can't think of an older white dude who's bald that looks the part.
I don't have any examples either.
What else could Marvel do if they owned everything that they own or want to own?
I mean, I definitely would love to see a Doctor Doom storyline for sure.
I would like to see Doctor Doom have interaction with Spider-Man.
I mean, anybody really.
Me personally, I would love to have seen the Hulk versus Wolverine.
Yeah.
That was like the top of my list. One thing I wish could have happened, but if that's going to happen, it's not going to be with the version of Wolverine most fans want.
I think that's the only way you get Hugh Jackman back to play the part, is if they can get an Avengers movie to happen with Wolverine, because he's pretty much always said, I want to be in an Avengers movie. And I think that's the only way you get him back to play the part again. So if Fox really wants to get, the proper Wolverine when their X-23 bullshit fails, because it's going to fail. I mean, say what you want about movie-going audiences, they're not going to buy a female Wolverine. It's just the way that audiences are. Wherever we feel about it, it's going to happen. It's going to fail. So when they realize that it's going to fail, they'll partner with Marvel at some point.
That's going to segue to exactly what I was going to say. Is
my bad.
You're right. No one's going to buy an X-23 standalone movie. They'll buy it with the X-Men movies, but at the same time, it's like, well, it doesn't have Wolverine in it. It was an X-Men movie without Wolverine. That was like the big complaint about, like, well, Wolverine better be in the X-Men movie if I'm going to see it. And I'm assuming that after this, the next X-Men movie without Hugh Jackman or without a genuine representation of Wolverine will probably fail. That pretty much makes a green light for Fox and Marvel to make their deal. And with all Fox has already done with their franchise of X-Men, rebooting it again, this could very well give green light for a Secret Wars kind of thing, where it's like, okay, we need to reset everything. The X-Men, we fix their story, fix our stories, so that we can all have one unified.
Not the most outlandish thing I ever heard.
Avengers. It's not, but if we're going to pitch what we would like to see in the movies or in the television aspect of it, I would like to see something to where Fox and Marvel put whatever is aside and say, both of them say, or Fox more or less say, okay, we fucked up. We need to fix this. We need your help. And the only way to fix it, storyline-wise, would be Secret Wars.
I don't disagree either. I think Marvel is pushing to kind of open that door, too, with looking at interdimensional things. Yeah. That way, if it does happen, it doesn't seem out of the blue. But yeah, I mean, geez, I hate to come back to Fox fucking everything up, but...
Well, let's not be too negative. We can just move on. It's okay.
But where do we want to go with wrapping this up?
What do you think about a next major story arc for like the Netflix Defenders arc for the TV side? You've
got Shadowland down here.
That's what I want to see badly.
I think that's a very logical step for Daredevil.
I fucking badly want to see Shadowland.
Shadowland would make the most sense, especially how the last Daredevil series ended.
I'm just worried
they're progressing far enough into the shows now where they've introduced enough of the characters. Like, all they really have to introduce now is, like, Shang-Chi and Moon Knight, and they can kind of do whatever they want with the universe.
I could see Moon Knight coming to a Netflix series.
And they've
talked about that for, like, the last year now, of Moon Knight getting his own series and likely on Netflix.
And the Netflix shows make so much sense for Moon Knight as a character. Like, they can go really dark with it.
Yep.
And it would make so much sense. But, I mean, they're getting to that point where they've introduced Karen Page now, and they can kind of supplant Karen Page into the Elektra role in Shadowland, and they can kill off Karen Page instead of Elektra. And they have Punisher, so they can do all this stuff. I think it just makes so much sense.
It makes too much sense, honestly.
Yeah, that's why it's not going to happen.
Yeah, probably.
I'm just using wrestling logic on that.
I want to talk about Punisher for a second. I would like to see somewhat of like a Punisher War Journals kind of thing, kind of doing some flashbacks in broader detail to his time in the military. And
based on what we've seen about what they're filming for Punisher, it doesn't look like this season of the show is based on any comic storyline.
It doesn't need to be. Punisher's one of those characters that he can pretty much do whatever the fuck he wants.
And I think that's what they're doing. They're just like, well, as long as he's violent, we can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's probably going to fly. I'm probably going to like it anyway.
But I'm very curious as to, I mean, I think they'll touch upon his military back, because that's what Netflix series kind of do. It's like, you think it's one linear thing, like from like set shots and what people talk about. You think it's one linear thing, but somewhere in the middle of the 13 episodes, they have like 2 or 3 episodes where it's like, okay, let's flash everything back, and then you're like, oh, okay, there is more substance than what you thought. And I think that they probably will touch on the military aspect or a little bit more on the family aspect, and fast forward back to him being a psychopath killer.
That's why the Netflix shows, to a certain extent, have been so much better than the movies. They just have so much more time for characterization.
Yeah. To me, the Netflix shows play out a lot more like the limited comic book series, where you've got time to digest things between them happening. So it allows you to, like you said, Matt, get a lot more character development in there and make me more invested in particular characters.
Well, the one thing they do great, too, is their villains stand so much apart because they have the time to. Marvel film villains are treated so throwaway in general that when you see the characterization put into them in the Netflix series, it really, really stands out when you see how much characterization has gone into like Kingpin on the Daredevil series. Where,
But the thing about the Marvel Netflix series is that they, in some cases, make you feel bad for the villain that they're in the spot that they're in.
Which is
like Kingpin.
genius.
You like, yeah, like the Kingpin. I'm like, why do I feel bad for this asshole? And then you like look back at like how his father and his mother's relationship was, and him staring at the painting, and him staring at the wall, and like him having a girlfriend or wanting a fiance, and like all those things. And it's just like, oh my God, I like this character. And it's not just Vincent D'Onofrio, it's just the way it was written. You feel for the character, but you also realize he's a bad guy.
I think the Netflix series talked to the character development of Marvel as a whole, because that's always been Marvel's thing, is to make the characters real, make them human, make them relatable. And I definitely agree with you in saying that the villains on the Netflix stuff are a lot more relatable, and to see how one person could be swayed to the good side by things that happen to them and one person could be swayed to the bad side by things that happen to them is a very interesting dynamic that you can get out of those television series that run 13 episodes compared to a movie that goes, 2 hours at most. So it's definitely a very interesting dynamic when you go between the two.
Steve, any characters you'd like to see in the MCU that you haven't seen yet?
All the Spider-Man stuff, like I said. I'm a Spider-Man whore.
And we know that I want to see Gwenpool.
I think Gwenpool could be a really interesting character to bring into the films.
Because, for one, Fox doesn't own it, which I'm pretty sure is why Marvel made it, because it's so self-aware like Deadpool is, but now Fox can't touch it.
But what aspect of it does Sony own? Because it's technically a Gwen Stacy alternate universe. And it is technically, I don't know if it falls under being technically Deadpool or not.
I don't know.
It's really
some
weird
conundrum. But I think that Marvel created it specifically so that they could rip off a character that Fox won't let them use.
Maybe.
And now that they're working with Sony, then Sony will be like, sure, you can fucking use it. We don't want to use that anyway.
I'm curious as to what the deal with Sony is, because as far as we know right now, it's just Spider-Man, but we don't know if it's Spider-Man properties as well.
I think we can draw conclusions that they can use villains that they want to use and stuff like that, too.
I think it's pretty much Marvel came in and said, hey, motherfuckers, we're going to let you technically still hold the rights to Spider-Man, but we're doing fucking everything, and you can't say shit.
And Sony was like, okay, well, as long as we can take most of the money, then that's fine. Yeah.
I like the image of Marvel kicking a door down. Hey, motherfuckers.
I'm pretty sure that's how it went.
Feige just walking in like a bastard.
But the words actually come out, well, okay, let's make a deal here. Like busting in and saying, motherfuckers, let's make a deal here.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. After the email thing, Feige just walked in the building and kicked the door down and had 6 shooters on. I was like, listen up, motherfuckers. This is a bank robbery. We're taking Spider-Man.
I know we're getting the Inhumans, but I would like to see the Inhumans proper. I want to see Medusa. I want to see...
I don't think they would do that TV property unless we were actually getting the royal family, because we're not getting it as a movie now.
Oh, I'm so excited to see Black Bolt.
You guys, again, are trying to sell me on ABC being good for something like the Inhumans.
ABC produces some of the Netflix stuff.
They produce all the Netflix stuff.
But at the same time, they allow it room. Like, they breathe because it's not cable television. It has, the full hour to go to a darker side or... explore certain things without commercial breaks, whereas the way television is written on standard television is that, in Inhumans, you have to go to a certain arc by the 30-minute line, and then none of the episodes really feel as though they're really tied in.
I'll say this. Do I agree that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would be better on Netflix as like a 13-episode PG-13 type show? Yes, it would absolutely be better. But since ABC moved it to a later time slot and got more towards the PG-13 type stuff, yeah, they're a much better show.
Yeah.
But like with Inhumans, I think that it would have to have the PG-13 feel to it without being held back by the idea that, it's a Disney property.
I never thought of Inhumans as particularly a violent property.
I'm not saying violent. I'm looking at it and saying, like, with the characters and the stories that they tell themselves, for me, it's hard to see it on ABC in succeeding.
I get where you're coming from.
I think we still have a lot to go with determining where that show's going to go. I know the promo artwork that they showed is, I believe, Royal Family.
We should see casting soon because it's supposed to be out in September.
Yeah, right. And they are putting the first 2 episodes out in IMAX before they actually air them. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this could be something we see get pushed to a later time slot. And
wouldn't be entirely shocked if it went to like a 10 p.m.
Could be something we see that's a bit darker. And who knows? It could also be, I don't want to say a period piece, because, I mean, I don't know that you could really call it that, but it might be more of a history of the Inhumans, at least through this first season.
We'll see.
Rather than a continuation of the Inhuman stuff that's going on.
I think we'll start to know more soon.
The S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff. Yeah, definitely. What else? Any other characters? I mean, there's millions of them.
Definitely mentioned all of mine for the most part.
Yeah, for me, I'm kind of with you, Steve, I'm a huge fan of Spider-Man. The one I would want to see is Venom. Second would probably be Agent Venom from Guardians of the Galaxy, and then probably Carnage after that. I can't really think of anyone else I'd like to see. Like I said, the things that if they were doing crossover properties, obviously Hulk and Wolverine, but I can't really think of any characters that don't exist that I haven't seen or would want to see redone. Galactus was another one that I'd like to see, and who knows how far down the line.
I mean, I can keep naming characters.
I mean,
but
I would
don't
like
wanna
to
go all
see.
day.
I would like to see the current iteration of Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, especially knowing that she's an Inhuman.
I think we're some time away from that.
Probably.
I think so too.
But I think a lot of the younger characters that Marvel have.
Young Avengers, I could see.
Young
because
Avengers
we need to
would be
replace Hawkeye,
fantastic.
so we can see Kate Bishop. We need to replace Iron Man.
See, I keep seeing people mention how a Netflix series with Hawkeye in the vein of the Matt Fraction run would be
That'd be pretty
amazing. I would love
cool.
it.
And he's game for it. He's already said
I
he would
would
do it.
love
Jeremy
it.
Renner.
Mm-hmm.
So
because that's probably one of my more favorite comic book runs.
I think Jeremy Renner would do anything that you asked him to do.
Probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like the young characters, and I would really like to see them get featured in some stuff.
I'd be all on board for Young Avengers. So
I think that would give the audience that reads those books, the younger audience, something to have.
Yeah.
Because for right now, I feel like it's a lot of, I don't want to say fan service to people who know these characters from, their childhood. Why not build an audience for the younger
I
generation?
think they're getting there.
And I mean, there's anything, honestly. I would pay to see any Marvel property done by Marvel, truthfully. So is that where we're going to wrap it up?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we've come to the end of another episode. You can find the Deep Six Podcast, of course, over on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Podbean. Of course, you could subscribe too. Why don't you? It's free. It costs you nothing. You'll get the latest episodes as soon as they're published.
Such a value.
Yeah, right. And now you can subscribe to us on even another platform, YouTube. So just keep doing it everywhere. Subscribe.
So many options.
Smash the button.
Smash the like button.
But you can also find the Deep Six Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Find links to all of those over on deep6podcast.com, spelled out one word.
Deep6podcast.com.
Deep6podcast.com. Matt, where can they find you on the internet?
They can find me on Twitter at the Matt Barnes, Instagram at the Matthew Barnes, and also you can find the Deep Sports Podcast at Deep Sports Pod.
You can find me, Steven Spivak, on Twitter and Instagram at Steven_Spivak. And Marcus, where can they find you?
Honestly, I'm mostly off of social networking, but if you want, you can find me, I guess, on Instagram at just call me Aurelius, all one word. That's pretty much the only place that you may be able to find me.
Yeah, he's going to talk about his appearance here today on there.
Yes, I will post that, yes.
Awesome. And you can find links to that in the show notes.
I don't know when this is going to air. This is some crazy Back to the Future shit,
Yeah.
so I don't even know what date
Yep.
this is. I mean, we're recording this sometime, I don't know, in the past.
Doctor Strange came through and just threw us all over the place.
1955, I don't know.
We have to go back.
Until next time, for our guest Marcus, for Matt Barnes, for the absent Daniel Spivak, I'm
Bye, Dan.
Steven Spivak. We'll see you next time.